Fortnite.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Jie. I'm a PhD student from New Jersey Institute of Technology, and this is my advisor, and also the second author of this paper. Our topic is why purchase, who purchases and why, explaining motivations for in-game purchases in the online survival game Fortnite. So before we talk about Fortnite, let's talk about free-to-play business model and the in-game items. So the business model of publishing a game for free and then making revenues from selling in-game items for revenue, known as free-to-play, is really popular now. So in many free-to-play business, in many free-to-play games, in-game items are often instrumental and can directly benefit the player's gameplay. For example, to enhance a certain skill or receive extra time to play the game or unlock some features. But some games also provide purely cosmetic items for purchasing, such as just changing the clothes that the avatar wears. So then Fortnite. Okay, Fortnite is a multiplayer online survival game known as the Battle Royale game genre. So once the game starts, up to 100 players must compete with others to collect weapons, resources, and items for survival and combine with one another. So one of the core mechanics is to connect resources to build platforms and walls to either get a vantage point or hide from the enemy. So the last player or team would be the winner. So Fortnite is also free to download and install. Most of its revenue is from players' small purchases of its in-game currency called V-Bucks. So 1,000 V-Bucks is equal to $10. We decided to do this study because Fortnite is considered one of the most successful games to generate revenues from selling in-game items now. And it should also be noted that while in-game purchasing is certainly not new, but Fortnite is unique because the items are purely cosmetic and do not give player any advantages. So if you pay or you not pay, basically you can still play the game without any issue. So we want to know what are the differences between spenders and non-spenders in Fortnite, and among those who do spend money, why do some spend more than others? So in particularly, we focus on 3 research questions. The first one, what factors are associated with the likelihood of spending money in Fortnite? And second, what are the reasons for players to buy in-game items in Fortnite? And third, how do those factors and reasons influence the actual amount of money players spend in the game? So we go back to literature to identify the factors. We just realized many papers talk about the social and individual factors, and some papers talk about habits. But previous research has explored those factors, right, in different gaming contexts. So Fortnite representing a new game genre and context. So we decided to explore it. We applied a survey study, explore Fortnite, and try to answer our research questions. So to recruit participants, we used multiple online and offline platforms, including Volcanic Turk, and also Facebook group and Reddit, Twitter, and also the esports club from our university. And we finally got 215 responses for the analysis. Because we're going to use regression, so we try to explain our dependent and independent variable here. So the independent variables are the reasons to purchase in-game were developed based on pilot interviews with Fortnite players. We also include habits and some other behavioral questions like playing frequency, how often do you play, how many times do you spend each week, and also demographic such as age and income. So we have 2 dependent variables. The likelihood of purchasing in-game, which was measured by the question, do you buy in-game items in Fortnite? The answers are yes or no. And also we have another dependent variable, so the amount of V-Bucks you purchased. So the average age of our participants is around 29, so we have more male than female. most of the participants are white. The primary platform they played was PC. And interestingly, we found that most of the participants played alone against strangers. And some of them they also play with like friends. So to answer our first research questions, so spenders versus non-spenders, we put those variables as dependent variable and run regression. We found that age is negatively related to the likelihood of in-game purchasing, which means that younger people are more likely to buy in-game items. So in addition, while hours of play was not a significant predictor, but the total length of play is significant. So this finding suggests that it is the attachment to the game rather than the time spending in the game that affects players' willingness to pay. And we want to find out the motivations, but then we run factor analysis. We identify like 2 motivations for players to buy in-game items in Fortnite. Social pressure measures players' perception towards being influenced by friends or peers. And individuality measures participants' desire to be unique. So you can take a look at the items. And then among the spenders who spend more, we also run like a regression model, including those 2 motivations variables. And we found that habit is negatively related to the actual purchasing behavior. So we don't know why. So a possible explanation is that players who spend more in the game are compulsive shoppers, and care more about the cosmetic value rather than the instrumental value of the virtual goods. So individuality was positively, where social pressure was negatively related to the actual money spending. So in this sense, players who want to differentiate them from their friends and other players will spend more money in the game. So our finding point out some aspects that may have been overlooked in other studies, especially regarding like digital consumption and self-expression. So in our study, digital consumption, like the spending behavior, is motivated by being unique from others rather than wanting to belong to the community. So in this sense, digital consumption is not for aggregating or co-constructing the self, but for establishing a more distinctive self. So since contextualization is an important factor of studying the virtual economy, so we thus believe that our work also point out the importance of taking the specific online context, like a survival genre, right? A survival game, and social dynamics, like different type of collaborations, and the tendency to play with strangers into account when discussing digital consumption and self-expression. So social pressure, different from other social factors such as social influence and social interactions that has been explored in previous literature review. It is rarely explored in the gaming context, maybe the first time in Fortnite. So, and also we identify like the negative association between social pressure and actual money spending. So it's different from previous literature review, we don't know. So the future research can do like a qualitative study to give more like, a better explanation to these relationships, right? And we also only focus on this one platform, so maybe future research can do like a cross-platform and from other popular platforms such as Second Life and World of Warcraft. So, this is like a preliminary study, so we found something, but we cannot fully explain everything. So that's why we need like to do more. We hope like to do more research in the future. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're open now for questions, and I see one over there.
Hi, Jimmy Zoe from Epic Games. So I was wondering, a large population of Fortnite is children players, and there have been issues of like social pressure being applied on children who don't have skins compared to people who do have skins. And I'm wondering like how much of the population, what percentage of the participants did you recruit were children, and did you notice any trends for social pressure along that point?
Okay, hold on. I didn't mention that when we design the survey, we have to approve it by the ARB, right? So we already said that the participant have to be higher than, have be like 18 or larger. So that's why you see that the average age is like 28 or something, because we didn't include children in this study.
Oh, can I ask why? Or
because we think there, if we trying to do study with children, there's always like an ethical issue, and because this paper is a larger project related to live streaming, and live streaming is also like for adults, so we just restrict the age to 18.
Okay, thank you.
I also saw somebody over here. No? Yeah, go ahead. I'm done.
Simon Herman, University of Canterbury, New Zealand. So my question is, did you specifically ask them if they spent money on skins, or did you ask them if they generally spent money on Fortnite, like Battle Pass or something like that, or did you distinguish between those two things?
No, we just asked, did you spend money in Fortnite, and how much do you buy for V-Bucks?
So it technically could be that they spent money on a Battle Pass, but they didn't spend money on a skin, and they would still be in your sample.
Okay, so even though it's for Battle Pass, you still have to get this like skin stuff, right? This like virtual items, right? So basically the same thing.
Okay.
But we didn't differentiate. Yeah, that's kind of like a limitation. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hello, Andres Garcia from Ganfed. Have you thought about like the framework from like a pay to win? Because all your payings is for aesthetic experiences. Have you thought about maybe like how would it work in the pay to win framework?
Sorry, I didn't hear clearly.
Sorry, so pay to win is basically you get actual enhancements to the mechanics of your gameplay. The aesthetics ones are just aesthetic, so it's more a social amount. Have you investigated the side more like a pay to win framework in your study?
So do you mean? So I hear you mention like Amazon Mechanical Turk or something. So pay to win. What do you mean like pay?
Okay, there's games where if you buy things, you get more activity, your gun shoots better, or you can run faster, or so you actually change the game mechanics through this pay win. I'll explain it to you later on if you want.
All right. So Fortnite, the in-game items are not gonna give you like advantages, like you increase your speed or something, right? So in Fortnite, it's purely cosmetic. It will only change like your appearance or something like that. So that's why it's very interesting, because people gonna buy something that will not, build like advantages from others, but they still buy it. That's why we do this study. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the surrogate body in play.